All right. I was supposed to do this yesterday, and I totally forgot. All right. This one, a bit personal, and it's more of a message to my children, future generations, really more of the story of how we got to here. So if you feel like listening, great. Just warning, I have no plan or agenda or script. I mean, I never do, but this one could be a while, so. I'll address this to my kids. When I met your mom, when we first met, we actually met at Sean's Dance Factory Big Bang. I don't know if it was the second or third, but it was a performance. And I was performing with my friend, Joey, Jose, AKA Full Deck. At the time, I don't think he was called that, but we were performing a breakdance show, just two-man show performing, and it was at the Kravis Center. And your mom was working backstage, and she was coordinating all the performances, and I was one of the guest performers with Jose. And we caught eyes, and I made her laugh, and Jose and I made a bet on who can get her number, and I won the bet. We hung out, but I was really immature at that time, so I actually didn't pursue anything further, and we went our separate ways for a long time. We hung out, we saw each other here and there. Your mom always says that she stalked me. I like to call it research, social media research, we'll call it that. And it wasn't until much later that her and I reconnected. Let's see, 2013, we reconnected, and in a weird, interesting story. In New York, they teach you, this is in driver's ed school, this is what they teach you. They teach you to put your insurance and your registration in a Bible, and then put that in your glove compartment, so that when and if you get pulled over and you're looking for your registration, you gotta open up a Bible and say, oh, let me open up to Proverbs or John 3:16. Oh, okay, here's my registration, and then you hand it over to the officer. And at the time, I had just got quote unquote saved. I had just had a new profound discovery of the divine in my life, and I was also coming out of a breakup. And after that breakup, I had decided that I was gonna I actually told myself that I wasn't going to see, date, or sleep with anyone. And I did. I took like a whole year off, maybe even more, and just spent time with God. And I went on a spiritual journey, is what I did. I went off and I experienced from traditional, non-traditional, to what is that, to some really cool atheists, to yogis and Buddhists and Muslims. I just curious, and I needed to know for myself where I stood in the conversation of spirituality. So I just went on a journey to find that out for myself, and I did. So fast forward, 2013, I'm going through a breakup, and I have this, awakening, I guess you can call it, in this spiritual journey of mine. And I open up my glove compartment, and I find a Bible. Now, this Bible that I specifically had in the glove compartment, actually, your mother gave to me. It was a gift she gave to me back in the day when we first met, and at the time, it's what I call a super Christian. Your mom was a super Christian at that time. She came from a mega church, and she was very devout and very loyal. And that's also something that I love about her, and not just in her faith, but her friendships and her relationships. She's just a very loyal person. So I opened the glove compartment and I saw this Bible, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta tell Burcin about my journey. And let me just be like honest. At the time, I just wasn't really looking for anything except to just connect with people on this journey of spirituality. And I remember that Burcin was a very spiritual person at the time. So I texted her or called her, and I told her that I discovered God, because at the time when her and I were first like seeing each other, I was not on that wavelength at all. I was, I guess you could say, agnostic, atheist, whatever. I would say agnostic. I believed in spirituality, but I didn't know what it was, and I wasn't mature enough or willing to define it for myself. So anyway, I reconnected with her. And upon reconnecting with her was also a rekindling of what we first had when we first met, which was an honest connection. And we ventured into that. And then fast forward, we got married. No, I'm just kidding. So that's how we met. And I remember she started coming around to House of Drums, and that was the event that I started throwing in 2012. And that was my life. That was essentially my ministry for a while, which was, I wasn't really welcomed in a lot of spiritual homes and traditional homes in many ways because of my views and my perspectives. But honestly, my views and my perspectives are all based off of my experience, not what I read. I read things, but I also experienced things, and whatever, that's another topic. But I decided to put my spiritual, I guess you could say, direction into what I loved the most at the time, which was dance community. And simultaneously, I was also learning the craft of DJing. So it was just kind of, this is where my ministry kind of met. And Burcin was also very big into ministry at the time, so she joined me on the journey. And we also, had feelings for each other as we were developing. So there was this connection of music, this connection of dance, this connection of ministry, this connection of community, and even more powerfully, a connection of our spiritual journey. And as much as we were very different in how we saw things, simultaneously, I knew that there was a deep honesty of whatever it is that she believed. She honestly believed it, which for her was to love people, to take care of people. And I love that about her. I still do. And that's who your mom is, no matter what. She can get upset, she can get mad, but at the end of the day, she just wants to love people. And she can be passive aggressive at times because she doesn't like confrontation. But she's, from dating and marrying me, she's definitely found her way in expressing herself. But at her core and nature, she doesn't want bad blood. She just wants to hug people and butterflies and rainbows and unicorns and love people. And that's also something that I love about her, still to this day. And that's the mother that she is too. So that was 2013. I was going through, I guess you could say, a lot of artistic, creative changes in my life. I was growing up with the understanding that I was going to dance my whole life. I was doing it since I was 14 years old, and then from that, I was like, yeah, we're going to do this professionally. I had no idea what that even meant to do professionally, if I'm honest. I just wanted to really battle and compete for the rest of my life. But at the time in my generation, it wasn't really a stable lifestyle. You could do it, but financially, it's just, right, yeah. We'll leave that for another conversation. But I got injured in 2009, like a major injury, and I wasn't able to compete. I wasn't able to break, and that's where life got a little shifty for me, and I found myself taking on random different jobs and venturing into different artistic professions, and that's where you get, emceeing and DJing and event planning, and even, video and photography, if I'm honest. A lot of me taking that more seriously is because I just couldn't dance. And what made, I think, the relationship between your mother and I more I think what made our relationship interesting but also stronger is that as much as we love dance, our relationship isn't based off of dance. So we have that commonality, that common ground, but really what binds us, what bonds us, is not necessarily dance. It's what helped us meet, and we honor that, but really what connects us is our spiritual path. And also just our love for people. And I guess you could say the journey of discovering more and more of the unknown, or what others would say, God, right? So that's a big part of who we are. And still to this day, it's whenever we get into a rough patch, or we're in a good patch, that's where the center of our being is. And we can always trust that. 2013, 2014, we were just dating, and I'll tell you this is a true story. I don't remember the exact date, but your Aunt Kiki, Burcin's best friend, she pulled me aside at the mall, and she said, I just need to know where this is going between you and my best friend. Are you serious about this, or are you just tagging her along? And let me tell you, you need friends like that. I respect her for doing that. She called me out on whether I was just being an immature kid about this relationship, or if I was looking for a future with her. And that made me, I guess you could say, question myself, and also question the relationship, and how serious I was. And the truth is, I was always serious. I just, too immature to say it to myself. And I remember the doubts and the questions and the fears about commitment, because I have a lot of them. At least then I had a lot of them. And I had a friend tell me, the question is not whether you want to spend the rest of your life with her. The question is, do you see the rest of your life without her? The question is not whether you want to spend the rest of your life with her. The real question is, do you see the rest of your life without her? And when I really thought about it, no, I didn't. Your mom and I are truly best friends in so many ways. We've seen each other grow and change, and while maybe not legally we've been remarried, we've remarried each other many times. Your mom has seen me go from, a community leader, a full-time DJ, a pastor, to a photographer, a business owner, to a cinematographer, to actor, YouTuber, or at least trying to be. She's seen me in a lot of different phases, and through every single phase, she's been there supporting me, cheering me on every single step. And when you find those people, and you have those people, they're special, and you keep them in your corner. And she's always been there. She's been the corner, and she's been my rock through many transitions of my life. And I know that she'll be that way towards you guys as well, through everything. Because it's just who she is. She can't not be herself. Trust me, I know that. Where was I? What was the date? Okay. 2014, 2015, I don't remember the date. I lost track. I'll just tell you the story. We decided to go on a pre-marriage, what would you call it? A pre-marriage a pre-marriage, premarital class, I guess you could say. And it's basically to make sure that you're on the same page and you're thinking about marriage a certain way. And it was a church thing for the most part, it was a ministry. But it was something that Burcin wanted to do. And I'll be honest, at first I was like, I'll just do it because you want to do it. But it became something that was extremely life-changing for me. One of the sessions that we had, and we did this with Burcin's good friend Sheena's parents, and they led us through this. And there was this interesting moment where we were talking and writing down our biggest fears in life. And I wrote down mine, and my biggest fear was to become a father. And I didn't ever think it, I never said it before in my life, it just came out honestly. And as the words came out, I just started bawling, crying. And the biggest fear of being a father was because my whole story of being adopted is, in my mind, is essentially based off of my biological father passing away and not being able to be there for his family, which left financial pressure on our biological mother, and then 3 of us were put up for adoption. So whatever heartaches and problems and issues I had growing up is attached to the concept of fatherhood. And I told Burcin after that session that I was like, I don't know what this means, but I need to go to the Philippines and I need to go face this. And I told my mom and my dad, and I told my family and my friends, and together, mainly mom and dad, my mom and dad, your papa and grandma helped me go. And I had friends that chipped in some money to help me with some expenses, and that was really, really nice. And I went to the Philippines in 2015 to go and face this. And it was a really amazing experience. And when I came back, I knew I wanted to marry your mom. So I asked her to be my wife at the December 30th, 2015. And then we got married in spring, I guess you could say in June of 2016. Now, we've been on a journey, and through that stage of our lives, we've been through many transitions. Burcin used to work at a mega church, and that was her life. And when she started dating me, her views and her perspective started shifting, just because how I saw things, and not because I overly influenced, or at least I don't think, or I hope not, but because we were able to agree on some things that maybe the way that we were being brought up spiritually was not necessarily how it actually is. And that came out through study, but that also came out through experience. Also, we're dancers. So because we're dancers, we just experience life differently. The community that we're from as a dancer is one of the greatest communities you'll ever experience. You are involved in an art, a craft. You're involved in self-expression. You're involved in a bit of escapism. You find a home away from home. You find a social group. You find yourself. You get to travel the world. You meet new people. You meet people that don't speak the language you speak, but yet speak a universal language that you do speak. You learn new things. You learn about culture. You learn about personality. You learn about locations and history. Dance is so tied to history in so many ways, and it's such a beautiful world to be involved in. So when you're involved in something like that, you just connect to the world differently. So sometimes, traditionally, how you're being taught things in and through, I guess you could say, church settings, it doesn't match up to your life experience. So in our marriage, that was a big part of our life, was making sure that the future of our family has an experience that we didn't, which is a global understanding of international affairs. Not that you have to get involved in politics, but more or less just know that there's more than this world than just your block. There's so much to see and to experience and people to connect with. There's more languages to learn. And you can learn and experience so much through art, because your mom and I are artists. When she stepped away from church, she stepped away to discover herself. And then I took on the role of full-time working. And that's when in 2018, we had Bodhi. And then 2019, while mommy was a full-time mommy and I was working, is when I got laid off my job. And when I got laid off my job, the world shook. Now, 2 weeks before I even got laid off, I was ordained as a pastor. And I became ordained, and I had left like most of my life behind me, and I wanted to go in that direction. And then I got laid off my job, and financially, we didn't know what we were going to do. Now, we've been in this bind before, as far as like financial questions and struggle. But this one was probably the more real, where we had to just face our own facts of we didn't really know what we were going to do. But we did take a risk, and we decided that with the money that we did have, we were going to try to change our lives. And that's where the adventure begins. We started the 100-day vlog for Bodhi, and you can see in that just the transitions of our own life and where we ended up. And you also can experience the struggle of trying to keep that going. We wanted to travel more, we wanted to see the world more, but we were also trying to hold down a community here and bring that up in some sort of ministry way. And all the while, what do we do financially? How do we keep that afloat? How do we keep that moving? And now we're at number 2, the second challenge of keeping this going. And I will tell you this is very, very different than the first time that we did it. I'm once again going through a career change, and once again going through a financial change in our life. I won't go too into detail about it, but I'll tell you this. I finally, after 35 years of living, I finally have like a direction. I think everything that I've ever done, as much as I've enjoyed it and I've been passionate about it, I can't really say that I've ever said to myself that this is what I want to do and my mission and what I want to accomplish and what I feel called to do. Everything has been very, this feels right, but it doesn't match to how I feel about like my direction in life right now. Ironically, as I can say that out loud, I also know that there's a big part of me that has to walk away from the previous life. And it just happens at a great time when Bali's almost here. So we're just at this really interesting transition of stepping away from the previous life and walking into a new. And I don't know what it means, but I do know that different is different and change is change, and change is change, and we're open to it. And that's where I guess you could say faith kicks in, where you don't know and you still walk and you trust. And I know where I want to go, but it seems a lot more difficult from this vantage point. But I also know that I would have never pictured my life to where it is and what it is today. And I know that I didn't see that when I felt like shit hit the fan and life turned upside down. So we're very fortunate that we have really great friends that step in when we feel down and we feel off. And even more importantly, we have a great foundation of family that's willing to be there to help us when this just life isn't going the way that we want it or plan to. So if there's anything I hope to pass on is the same gratitude and compassion that our family on both sides has given to us in not just this situation, but many other situations as well. Just to be that family of unconditional love. Now, a little background on that. For the children, you guys are what we call Turkapino. And we say Turkapino because you're Turkish and Filipino. But on the Filipino side, that gets complicated because your dad is adopted and very disconnected from his roots, his language, his heritage. So I'm discovering that now more at a later stage in life. And I know that I'm going to have to take some time to not only learn that and expose myself to it, but experience it firsthand along with you guys as well. Now, your mom is a lot more connected to her culture because she was raised by two wonderful Turkish parents. So you're probably going to get a lot more Turkish food in the house. You're probably going to get a lot more Turkish culture and language being brought up that way. If you're going to get anything from my side, it's just New Yorkism. I was raised in New York, so you're going to get a lot of keeping it realness, a lot of Italian food because I love Italian food, and you're going to get a lot of ADD-ness because that's who your dad is. I'm ADD, your mom is OCD. We like to say our family is ODD. But I guess what's cool is that you're going to also, something that I never really ventured into when I was younger is just discovering my own roots and heritage. So, note to you, sooner than later, go on that journey and discover your past, the ones that came before you, because it will tell you something about yourself more than maybe what mom and dad can tell you about yourself. And I know that firsthand, that the more that I venture into the people of my own culture that came before me, that I learn more about who I am, and it helps me make sense of my own life. And although that is a past and a part of me, there's also the nurture versus nature, and how I was raised is very different than essentially what my culture would be. Something interesting. Your mom was born in Port Jeff, Long Island, and I was raised in Long Island. Your mom moved when she was young to Stuart, Florida, or Port St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie, and that's where she grew up. And we met in West Palm Beach, but it's interesting to know that we were both had our time in Long Island, New York. I'm not a city kid, so I don't know that lifestyle. I experienced it through the lens of hip hop, but I don't know it firsthand like others. You can probably refer to some of your uncles that are B-boys that can tell you, or B-girls that can tell you a little bit more about that lifestyle. But yeah, I'm a Long Island kid, so I know about the Four Seasons, riding your bike, Ice Cream Man, Leaf Piles, Jones Beach, Little Vincent's Pizza, Smith Haven Mall, and Port Jeff. So I could tell you about that stuff, but I can't tell you a lot about the city life. And when I was younger, your grandparents put me in a BOCES program. And in that BOCES program, which was a vocational school for video production, because they knew that I was going to fail high school horribly if I stayed in there, because I was not doing good. My biggest fear in life is homework, still is. But I was put into this vocational program for video production, and it's the first time, I think, educationally, that I felt like I belonged and that I was doing well, and I excelled in it. So I decided to go to college for it as well, and I happened to be studying under a teacher that went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale and told me great things. So instead of staying in New York for college, I decided to go somewhere warm, because also at the time I was looking for a sense of culture within myself. So I moved to South Florida, and the rest is history there. But I bring that up because much of this is from that journey, that your grandparents set me on that path. So while I'm venturing into the world of filmmaking on both sides of the lens for me professionally, this aspect of documenting life and talking about it, a lot of it comes from those experiences. So I don't take the privilege of having a camera and knowing how to use one very lightly, because I do think it's one of the most powerful tools that you can have as a storyteller, whether you're a photographer, a videographer, a cinematographer, or maybe even someone with a microphone. But if you know how to operate it and use it to its capabilities, it can do a lot of great things for your life, and it can also change a lot of the world around you. My life has changed a lot, and it's also been supported through cameras. I never really had like a job. That's not true. I worked at Blockbuster when I first moved to Florida, when they had a Blockbuster. If you don't know what that is, just look it up, and because I'm pretty sure, well, I know it doesn't exist because it doesn't, but I worked, for the most part, I've always had a job in creative media. When I was in Long Island, I worked, bar mitzvahs as a dancer, and weddings and sweet 16s. And then I taught martial arts. I taught gymnastics. That was like the things that I was involved in. But as far as like career-wise, I was always involved in video. I was working since I was a teenager in like local productions and union productions. And then when I moved to South Florida, I was going to college for it, and I was working on productions as soon as I moved here. So cameras is just what I know. So I don't take the profession of it lightly. And I've also just fallen in love with production. And, I'll never force you guys to do whatever you feel like you need to do. But I will say that if you're ever involved in something artistic, knowing more about cameras is extremely helpful. Not just because it's a trend, but because as a craft, you can learn to tell your story the way you want it to, and also document your family's life, and then also make really great money with it. Again, I've never really had like a job. I've always worked with cameras. When I got laid off my job in video, I started my own business. Your mom and I, we started our business in doing video work and making promotional videos, and then that turned into content creation, and then I picked up photography and I learned how to be a photographer, and then all of that has been there to support our life. We've been able to see great things, experience a lot of things, and make money with it. So again, I don't take camera work very lightly. I hope in the future that this will always be something that can be passed on in the family. But I also know professionally that this is not something that I necessarily want to be my profession. I guess it's kind of like this realization coming to the tail end of this project, is that I started doing it like vlogs and everything with this intention of like, yeah, I'll be a YouTuber and social media. But I think I've just learned to respect this craft so much that I don't really want it to be a profession. I just really enjoy doing it because it's a craft that I've learned to own and be mine. So if it takes me somewhere, great, but it's not really the intention. The intention of doing it is the joy that you get out of making a video and sharing it with your family. So if nobody ever sees these things, as long as it's for us, that's all that really matters. Professionally, I'm coming into this like really crazy transition right now. With Bali coming, I'm going to be transitioning back into the corporate life. I questioned it for a long time, and I guess life just kind of happened, and I have this really awesome opportunity on the table, and I'm going to take it. But within taking it also means that I'm going to walk away from a whole business that I built in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think the business will still continue, but it's going to redefine itself in a very drastic way. So, in doing so, I think this will be the last video for the vlog. Life is in this really interesting space right now, and I promise to finish this project, and I will. But I also, the same way that I stopped doing the vlog when we had Bodhi, when Bodhi was born, we stepped away from it, and because we just wanted to dive into parenthood. It's a very similar stage. I want to step away because I want to be there for my family. I'm still going to document everything, don't get me wrong, because that's something I love to do. But as far as posting it, this will be the last one for a while. I'm going to dive into this profession that I feel called into. But within that profession, it means a huge, heavy step back from a life that I've built in the last couple of years. And it's not really a step back. Life's a cha-cha. It always is. Was it 2 steps back, 1 step forward, or is it 1 step back, 2 steps forward? I don't know. But sometimes you step back to step forward. Through this, through this journey of making videos, I've really discovered myself as a creative person. When I was working in video, I was just working production, so I was just working on stuff for other people. And even when I built the business, I was just working on videos for other people. And I got really consumed by that because it fueled us financially. And now I'm at this place where I can step away from it for good and healthy reasons. This new direction is a lot, man. And also your mother is feeling day by day, the closer that Bali comes, it's harder for her to walk. It's harder for her to just continue carrying. So I know it's gonna happen sooner than we think. And I want to be there, and I want to be prepared for it. And I also want to spend the rest of those days with the family before Bali gets here, to be fully present, to be fully alive, and take in all those moments. I'll still document them. I'll just share them at a different time. So yeah, consider this project incomplete, but never finished. We'll reconvene and continue when the time is right. The last couple weeks, it's been really interesting with, for me, this concept of how much do I let go of things that I built and things that I have worked towards. But when you know where you're going, and what you need to do and what you have to do, you also realize that letting go of anything is just part of the process of moving forward. It's allowing yourself, it's giving yourself permission to move forward. And we're moving into this new beautiful season of unknown. And I think it's important as a member of our family to lead it into the right direction properly. So, before we sign off, Bali, you are part of a very creative family, but also a very unique family. You're Turkish, you're Filipino, you're a Turkopino, we live in South Florida, where I'm not really sure why, but I know that we're here for a reason. And you have a crazy brother who's the most generous and loving kid you'll ever meet, and also very outgoing, and potentially definitely more talented than his parents. He's just too young to know right now, but kid is gifted. And I know that you will be too, because you're part of our family. You have a really wonderful community of artists and dancers that are there for you, for anything that you need in the world. Is your mommy coughing? And you have a really loving family, from New York to Georgia to South Florida, that's there for you for anything that you need. I remember when I started making these videos, a lot of it was because artistically I was just bored. But I was also looking to discover myself. And in discovering myself, well, I guess you could say in creating videos and talking about life and experiencing life is how I discovered more of me. And if you ever find yourself in that place where you're not really sure, just make videos about it. Runs in our family, talking about it anyway. So it's been a really great adventure doing all of these for the family, and it will continue when the time is right. Whatever the future holds, I love you, and so does your mom. We love you with all our heart. And we'll see you in the next video.